Welcome to Chicago Playwrights, produced by the CLYDE FITCH Report in association with Chicago Dramatists. My name is Sean Douglas and we have Beck Willett on camera, and today our guest is Arelene Malinowski. Arelene Malinowski is an actress, playwright, and instructor who works primarily in solo performance. Her plays have been produced across the country, and she has been a mentor and teacher to a global network of solo performance artists. As an actress, you may have seen her locally at the Goodman, Victory Gardens, or the New Colony. And on television, you may have seen her in ER, CSI, The X-Files, among others. She is here to promote her disability trilogy, particularly her newest play, A Little Bit Not Normal. So I'll start with the first question we always ask our guests, which is, what is this play about, and why did you choose to write about this?
The newest play in my solo trilogy, which is the disability trilogy, is called A Little Bit Not Normal. And that is the response my deaf mother asked me when we talked about my mental illness. She said, "No, tell Daddy your brain is a little bit not normal," which I thought was an amazing thing to say, and became the title and really the thrust of what this solo show is about. And it looks at mental illness, my mental illness, and the journey of naming it, claiming it, and standing to be counted.
So how has working in theater expanded your emotional intelligence or given you unique resources to confront these ideas inside yourself?
This particular play helped me define what I wanted to do as a human being. When I started writing the play, people would ask me, "So what is this new piece about?" And I would hem and haw and say, well, it's kind of sort of this thing about what happened to me. And I realized that it's not the journey of the mental illness to getting well. It was really my journey of being able to stand and say, I have a mental illness. And so the play kind of informed where I needed to go as a person. But I knew it was something that I wanted to talk about, since all of my solo work is about some kind of a disability. I grew up in a deaf home, so I've been around disability as a child. The second one, called Aiming for Sainthood, which is the best title ever.
That is a good one.
Thank you. Is about what happens to a family constellation when there is a catastrophic illness and the whole caretaker issue. And the first show is called What Does the Sun Sound Like? Which was a question that my father asked me. When the sun hits the sidewalk, what does it sound like? And then the third is about my own disability. And so I felt like the trilogy gave me a 360-degree look at what disability is in this culture.
Now you say solo piece. Could you describe for our audience what solo performance is?
The thing that solo has, which is different from traditional plays, is, the interior thought is the province of the novel. Mm-hmm. In solo, you have that also as a tool to be able to have a scene and then talk to the audience to dissect what the play is about. Solo theater is theater of intimacy, and the person that you're acting with is the audience.
So how did you get into solo performance? What initially drew you to that outlet for yourself?
I was a midlife career changer. And when I went back to acting, I realized that I had something to say. I didn't want to say other people's words.
Right.
And I started writing, and a lovely woman said, "You have a story." So I started writing this solo piece, and I found that solo work really was a good match for my skills, because in the deaf community, one of the tools that they use is they do conversations like this. They take on different characters, and I found that, I know this. I know how to do this. And then for my first solo piece, which was a small 17-minute piece, I felt like, this is my thing. This is what I was.
You've been preparing your whole life for that kind of
I have.
So how has writing about these subjects allowed you to be a part of a greater conversation?
I've been really lucky to be able to travel with my work, doing conferences and colleges and universities and Performing Arts Center. And one of the things I always insist on is a talk back with the audience. And that gives me an opportunity to connect with the people and for people to connect with this. And for sometimes it's a world they don't know, like deafness. And other times people really understand what happens to a caregiver in a catastrophic illness. And this play, the mental illness play, has been the most surprising because, it's gonna make me a little verklempt. Because people stood to be counted. They actually stood and said, I have never said this in public before, but I have a mental illness, or my mother has, or I have a sibling who committed suicide. And after the first few readings, one being here at Chicago Dramatists, and that happened, and it was just like a groundswell, I thought, And I started to formulate, I'm a woman who likes a 5-year plan. And so I said, I'm going to have a 5-year plan to become part of the national conversation around mental illness. And I write for the Huffington Post, and this play is the cornerstone.
Any other parting wisdom before we go?
Yes, that the secrecy and the stigma that surrounds the whole issue of mental illness, no matter what kind of an illness you have, it's not a casserole illness, which means if you are in the throes of a crisis, nobody says, can I bring you a casserole? What can I do? That most of us carry this as a secret, and if we don't, people around us don't know how to act and react to it. Sometimes when you are absolutely in the throes of it, I need a casserole. I need you to come and say, here's this, how can I help you? I think everyone has a story that will stop your heart, but we stop telling them because people have stopped listening. And with the solo genre, it invites audiences to come on this journey and to listen.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You were absolutely sweet and delightful.
This has been Chicago Playwrights. Thank you for joining us.